I think everybody, including even the three people who spoke, in favor of the conditions that the city has imposed, agree. This is a good restaurant, welcome addition to the community, and I would like to figure out a way to be creative as to how we can make this happen without telling them, don't get us a lease in lieu for these 3 parking spaces. It doesn't help the situation. It doesn't make anything better. It doesn't add parking to Venice. All the things we agree on, it does not help that situation. So I'm still a little confused as to how we can accomplish this. And so I'm looking for a little guidance from planning. Help us get to a solution which I don't know if I speak for the rest of this commission, I think it's an awfully reasonable solution to this, to add the bike parking in. Everybody who goes there rides bikes there or walks there.
That's not true.
Excuse me, you're out of order. Do you live in Venice, Margaret?
Yes. I'm there every day.
Venice, Margaret?
I'm there every day.
I'm sure you are.
Thanks for taking my comment.
You're welcome. Point being is that I would like to find a common sense way to get to a common sense solution here, as opposed to having somebody write a piece of paper that says they're leasing 3 parking spaces down the street that don't actually add any parking to Venice. Let's actually get the bike parking in there, and let's actually help the situation. Give us some guidance on how we can get there.
So Julietta with City Planning, just to be clear, the request is a specific plan exception, and in order to grant the exception, there has to be some sort of hardship or difficulty here that doesn't apply to any other, that wouldn't apply, or that would apply, but I'm getting all mixed up. But basically, there has to be some sort of hardship here.
Right.
Anytime the department considers a specific plan exception, we're not looking at, we're not looking at whether it's a good operator or not. We're really looking at the provisions of the specific plan and whether it wouldn't apply to any other property or things like that. So we have to apply the same rules across the board to every applicant. Mm-hmm. In this particular case, if the commission feels that there is a way to grant the specific plan exception, you can include a condition to require a certain number of bike parking spaces. Again, that's subject to DOT approval. So DOT has to say that they have space and they do want to allocate space for bike parking. That's something I don't think they've had the opportunity to review. So really, it's about making the findings that a specific plan exception is appropriate.
Right. Well, I would certainly submit that it's an unreasonable hardship on any operator to go and lease in lieu 3 spaces that are essentially spaces that are creating absolutely no parking. You're spending money on something that gives no value to the community, and instead you're losing parking spaces. So, it's all in your interpretation, I guess you'd say, about what is a hardship. And, but I would argue that that's enough of a hardship in this situation that justifies an exemption. And that would be what I would recommend. I don't know if anybody else has any opinions. Otherwise, I'd like to hear from people, but I think this is one of these situations where we need to get to common sense on this, and I consider it a hardship. I certainly do.
Commissioner Waltz-Morocco, this is very difficult for me because I agree with you, but there are findings that have to be made, and there's not just one, there's many. And I've looked at this for the past 4 or 5 days, and I can't make these findings. I just can't. I mean, this operator obviously is awesome. People love them, especially the fried chicken sandwich, I understand. This is just one of the examples. It's a safer place because they are there. The council office is behind them. I mean, this is such a win-win-win. The bike idea seems like the absolutely perfect solution in this place. However, there are findings that have to be made, and we're held to what the law is right now. I mean, I would offer that it is time for us to look at these parking calculations. They were made at a time when we didn't have Uber or Lyft or Jump or Bird or all of these things. I mean, it's silly that we're still sort of holding on to this antiquated system. I mean, we really need to shake this one up because we have these successful businesses who have grandfathered rights, and we're handcuffing them. And it's happening in Venice, it's happening here on Pico Boulevard. So it's dismaying to me.
And again, what I would add to it, I think we all agree on an outcome. It's how to get there. I and again, I don't even think it's an operator question. We keep coming back to good operator.
No,
Yes,
it's not, it's just, yeah.
Yeah, just to finish, I'm not even taking the good or bad operator into the calculation, really. What I'm taking into it is, it does inherently seem to me like a hardship for any operator to require them to lease parking that is essentially spaces that are leased, oftentimes double leased, triple leased in Venice, because there really aren't enough spaces. You don't actually ever use them. That in and of itself, I think, is a legitimate hardship. And if somebody wanted to try and challenge that, I guess they could challenge it and take a writ on it if they wanted to, and I guess we'd see if it ends up back here right now. But I would push the envelope on something like this, because I just think it's not worth the candle to say, go lease 3 spaces. And they've already said they'll do it. At the end of the day, is this gonna change anything? They're gonna open the same restaurant, the same outdoor seating, the same square footage, all of this, but they're gonna go get a piece of paper that says they leased 3 spaces from the church down the street. I think that's a hardship.
Well, Commissioner Watson-Rocco, I agree with you, but I could cite places here on Pico that don't have the luxury of finding spaces within 750 square feet or the luxury of in lieu. These guys are stuck. At least this operator has a choice and can move forward with these 3 spaces. Do you know what I'm saying?
I don't know that I'm following. Is there any situation anywhere in the city where somebody can't find somewhere
Yes.
close enough to lease
Yes.
space?
Yes.
Just
Yes.
because there's no,
Yes.
just because there's no parking.
Yes.
lot
Correct.
Anywhere, yeah.
This is Commissioner Margolis, yes, within 750 feet,
Yeah,
there are
yeah.
many,
Right
there
here
are
on
many
Pico
places.
Boulevard, just got a variance shot down because there was nothing within 750 feet.
This is Commissioner Margolis. I'm just concerned that every time a new operator comes in the Venice Circle area, we're gonna be asked for a specific plan exception because nobody has adequate parking. And there are all kinds of things that could be happening. And, you know, it's up to them. If they want to ask DOT if they can add, or the county who owns that parking lot, if they want to add like formal bike parking, more bike parking, God bless you, go ahead. Nobody's stopping you from doing that. But we have a law on the books and a policy. And it just, you know, it's interesting that in the site photos that you showed us the north and the northwest, but you didn't show us the south and the southwest, where there are 2 public parking lots or 2 private lots that are in the business of selling parking to people in Venice. This is a case where you have operators, and actually thank you for the photo of the lagoon, the historic photo, that was fantastic, and thank you also for making it very clear and obvious that yes, there is parking to be had directly across the street from this. And, you know, Commissioner Newhouse, you know, I know it doesn't add a space necessarily unless those guys decide to start stacking their parking and making it more efficient or doubling it up or doing something else. But those 1-hour spaces that are available there, that have been there historically, someone who is patronizing that restaurant is going to use that space unless there's another space identified across the street for that purpose.
No,
So
that's not-
I just don't think that, I'm with Commissioner Walter-Morocco. I can't find any special findings that are different for anyone else in this immediate neighborhood that would give us the latitude to grant an exception.
I wholeheartedly disagree, and I don't know how an hour-long parking space has anything to do with the equation at all. We're talking about them leasing a space at a lot somewhere that's gonna be within the radius, that's never gonna actually be used for that purpose. There will not be any sign on the restaurant that says, please park at this address down the street. It creates nothing, and all we're doing right now, what we're doing is we have a solution to this. It is a little outside the box by saying this is a hardship. We have a solution, well, hold on, let me finish. We have a solution, and if we do that, what we do is we get the community a couple of really good bike racks that are gonna last for a long time and actually serve a purpose. Or what we can do is we can stand on ceremony and say, we have a very narrow definition of hardship, which by itself is a subjective term that this body can act on, and we can actually do something worthwhile here tonight, or we can sit there and have a narrow-minded approach to it, which will get the community nothing. Nothing except a piece of paper that says they have the right to 3 parking spaces that nobody will ever actually use. I'd push the envelope on this
Your
issue. I
opinion.
would. You want to help adjust how this is looked at in the day and age of Uber and Lyft and people biking and skating and walking? You want to actually move it forward so that changes are made at the policy level or at the legislative level? Then this is what we do. And if somebody wants to take it up for a writ, they can take it up for a writ, and we'll see if it comes back. But this is what I would recommend. I'm gonna make a motion along these lines, once you're done talking. If you guys wanna vote it down, you can vote it down. But I think this is a perfect example of, you know, I think a lack of application of common sense would be a mistake by this body when we do have reasonable grounds to call this a hardship. I think we do.
Well, Commissioner Newhouse, you're welcome to your opinion. And I don't think we're just looking for a hardship. We're looking for an exceptional situation here that other property owners do not face. And if this was the only property that had no parking of their own, I mean, it is weird the way the county just grabbed this open space when they reconfigured the intersection, and it's really a shame that it wasn't owned by the building. And it's a shame that Mr. Silver is taking so long to actually do anything with the post office and hasn't provided them with shared parking. I mean, there's all kinds of creative solutions out there, but I can't make a finding that says that this is a special and exceptional case compared to the rest of their neighbors. I'd like to ask if we're also considering the CUB here.
Yes, that's part
Okay.
of the action.
So I would like to ask if I don't seem to see any documentation from LAPD in the file on this. Is there, other than, I mean, I see the statistics about, unfortunately, the prevalence of crime in this neighborhood, but I don't seem to see a letter from LAPD.
Yeah, I agree. It was alluded to in public comment, but I don't know that I've seen it
The
either.
standard practice for LAPD is they only give letters.
Well,
It's not so much quiet, it's just,
You
it's
can
not
be
even on the
invited to
record,
the
but,
microphone.
no, we understand what the standard practice is. We're just pointing out that there's no letter in the file.
yeah, this is Commissioner Martin. From time to time, we have an actual letter from someone who represents the police department, and usually it comes when there is good case for them
Wow.
to also
Just
to
bend
be
it.
in support of a project.
That's correct. This is Juliet with City Planning. Typically, LAPD does submit a letter or an email, and staff does check up to see if they have any